Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be teaching you guys about Chapter 7, which covers the topic of teams. I'm Zach DeSacia.
I'm Deanna Ramadan.
I'm Tyler Wilson.
I'm Robert Frisu. And I'm Tim Hubbard.
Some learning objectives are: why do teams play an important role in organizations today?
How do teams form and become effective or ineffective?
Comparing the various types of teams and organizations today.
How to understand team effectiveness and evaluate team performance.
And what are the advantages and disadvantages relating to certain team decision-making approaches?
Some definitions are: teams, a number of people between 3 to 7 who use their skills to collaborate in a joint effort, and groups usually consist of 3 or more people who work independently to attain organizational goals. Teams versus groups. Teams characteristics are shared leadership, collective and mutual accountability, collective performance, encourages active problem solving, individual skills are varied, and an example would be football, because they are working together as a team to score a touchdown. I don't know much about football, but some group characteristics are individual leadership, individual accountability, individual work products, share information, individual skills are complementary. An example would be small businesses. So a business can have a marketing department, and that department has 3 people. One might focus on sales, the other on branding, and the last person does administrative work. They all work together individually to make a product sell. Are teams effective? The effectiveness of teams depends on how well they are managed and treated within an organization. A Google study indicates that it did not matter who's on a team, but instead how the team members interact with each other, structured their work, and viewed their contributions. Psychological safety. The definition is a shared belief held by team members whether it is safe enough to trust each other enough to take risk. When people feel psychologically safe in a working environment, they feel more inclined toward open communication, voicing their concerns, and actively seeking feedback. Research also shows a positive link between creativity and employees' perceptions of psychological safety. Trust focuses on how one person might perceive another, but psychological safety is more focused on how team members perceive the behaviors of the team as a whole. How to build an effective team. Nurture relationships. It is not always easy to get along with everyone on a team, but investing in relationships builds trust and loyalty. 2, honest feedback. Some leaders tend to shy away from giving bad news or negative feedback. Learning how to give honest feedback is a skill, but one must be adapted to the culture in the business and create a culture of openness. 3, identify common goals. Effective leaders identify and prioritize common goals to solidify the team. A message that you would have would be like the only way the team will succeed if we work together.
All right, so now we're going to talk about how teams are made, and we're going to start off with the Tuckman model. One way teams form is portrayed by this model. This covers forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. To begin, forming is how the teams come together. The members will cover certain topics that are critical to the team's success. These can be plans, delegation of tasks, setting of goals, or realizing potential challenges. Members tend to work alone in this stage as they start to learn about each other. The next stage is storming. This is where the team differences start to appear. Conflict becomes common in this stage, and issues arise from the different personalities. This can lead to questions of leadership or even other members' abilities. Members must start to have open discussions to resolve these issues, which takes us to the next stage. Norman is when the members start to get a feel for each other. They realize the differences can also play as strengths. Members are more likely to provide constructive criticism or even ask for help. At this stage, it is still possible to go back to the storming stage when new tasks are assigned. The next stage is performing, when the team really starts to act like a team. They are highly motivated and trust each other to get the job done. They all have the same goals and are willing to make decisions without the help of any outside entity. Returning to storming is still possible at this stage, though. And the final stage is adjourning. This is where the team must disband. This usually marks the end of the project. Teams can also be restructured by higher management to better fit the task given. This will most likely restart the cycle. And another model that showcases the events we just talked about is mentioned in the punctuated equilibrium, which is also called Gershik's model. This kind of combines the stages of the Tuckman model. First, the teams come together and their performances tend to be low, and they enter what is also kind of like a storming phase where things get a little rocky. But eventually, as time passes, the team will become more productive and then finally disband. Although both models may be important, the Tuckman model is more commonly used. And now to move on to norms and cohesion. As teams go on, they begin to form a set of rules for the behavior that guides the team. These are called norms. These cover how the teams may communicate, make decisions, or set hours to work. Teams that follow the norms set are oftentimes more cohesive and productive. Cohesion is important because this is how well the team connects. Bonds are made between members that can allow them to push each other towards the team's goals. Too much cohesion can lead to teams becoming inflexible and lead to problems within the team. Not enough cohesion can lead to issues with decision making and accountability. Now, moving on to synergy. Synergy is the concept that the total amount of work produced by an individual working by themselves is outweighed by the total output of a team. A team with good synergy will see a higher number of process gains. Process gains are factors that can help increase the effectiveness of a team. This could be shared visions, confidence in team members, task focus, conflict, and other examples. Teams that lack synergy will see an increase in process losses. These are factors that can negatively affect a team's effectiveness. These can be personalities that clash or unproductive conflict. Another form that is also of this is also called social loafing. This is when members do not produce work and just ride the success of a team. I'm sure we've all seen this in some shape or form. I mean, in college, there's a lot of group projects. There's oftentimes you'll get that one member that just won't put in the work, doesn't show up to the meetings, and just kind of expects to get the same grade as everyone else. And another form of this is also called cyber loafing. This is when members or employees inappropriately use the internet for personal resources instead of work-related reasons. This could be that one coworker or team member that spends the whole time shopping online or using several social media platforms instead of doing the work they were tasked with.
There are various types of teams in an organization. The first major type of team we'll be discussing is a virtual team. A virtual team is a group of individuals that work together and communicate through technology rather than in person. They utilize things like email, phone calls, text messaging, Facebook, and video conference calls in order to communicate. In today's society, technology innovations are increasing rapidly and businesses are adapting to this change. Some advantages of virtual teams are it allows for flexibility on locations. which means like it allows individuals to work from home or even on the go. People may also be able to save money due to like not having to travel to and from work. Virtual teams can also lead to higher productivity. For instance, if a company has operations in different time zones, they may be functioning around the clock. Some disadvantages of virtual teams include confusion on time when there's different time zones, and also miscommunication because of a lack of face-to-face interaction. One major example of a virtual team is Amazon hiring virtual employees across the US, UK, Germany, and Costa Rica. Which is shown. Next type of team is a self-managing team. It's a team that manages itself. Self-managing teams force individuals to bring their collective efforts together in order to get things done. This allows for individuals to feel a sense of ownership and responsibility when getting things done and accomplishing tasks. Some advantages of self-managing teams include fast growth and high level of productivity and profits. Some disadvantages include internal conflict and sometimes accountability issues. The next two types of teams are problem-solving teams and cross-functional teams. A problem-solving team is a group of individuals who are put together for a specific period of time and are in charge of finding a solution for specific issues. Problem-solving teams can be most efficient when there's a variety of individuals who think differently and perceive complex situations differently. This is known as a team that is cognitively diverse. One example is Disney hires problem-solving teams to create plans to build customer relationships when current methods are failing. The last type of team is a cross-functional team. This is a team that consists of a group of individuals from different sections and with all different kinds of areas of expertise that is formed together to work on specific projects. This allows for individuals with different strengths to come together and share their knowledge and expertise in order to get things done the best way possible. The example I came up with was a basketball team, because there's different types of players on the team who play different roles based on what they're best at. For example, you have a center who can get your rebounds and defend the paint, and you also have your point guard who's your best dribbler and will set up your offense. You also have your head coach and assistant coach that also use their levels of expertise to help the team win.
So there's many ways to measure team effectiveness, but two of the main ways are contextual influences and composition factors. So contextual influences include resources, characteristics, and organizational structures and systems. Composition factors include team size, skills and abilities, personalities, and diversity. So team resources include the equipment that's given to the team, the materials that's given, the training or information they get, staffing and the budget the team receives. If teams get all of those resources, then that helps them become the most successful and effective. If they don't get all those resources, it may hinder their performance. There's also task interdependence. So there's three types of task interdependence: pooled, sequential, and reciprocal. Pooled interdependence is when each team member produces a piece of work independently of the other members. A good example would be a factory producing a product, let's say radios, and each person produces one radio, and then when by themselves, and when they're finished, it's just the one radio. Sequential interdependence is when one team member completes a piece of work and passes it on to the next member for their input. So a good example of that would be an assembly line. So the next person can't start on their task until the person in front of them is finished. Then there's reciprocal interdependence, where team members work closely together on a piece of work, consulting each other, providing each other with advice and exchanging information. A good example of that would be a car company testing out the car safety. So they crash the car and then give the information on the crash back to the car manufacturer so they could try to develop a safer car. And then they give information back to the testers and so on to get the safest car possible. So team composition is made up of team size, skills and abilities, personalities, and diversity. Team size is generally 4 to 7 members or 3 to 7. Obviously, it could be less than that or more than that, but it's most effective when it's within those numbers. Skills and abilities, obviously, having a very skilled and able team is very effective, but that's not the only important thing. They need to mesh well together, or else they'll end up butting heads, and it won't matter how skilled they are, they won't succeed and be effective. Personalities, it's good to have a balance of personalities, but like I just said, if they're too balanced, I guess it'll lead to altercations and conflict. If you have too many extroverts in a team, it could lead to talking over each other and too much communication. And if you have introverts on the team, too many introverts on the team, it will lead to a lack of communication, and opinions may not get heard, and people may not speak up when they have a good idea. And then there's diversity within the team. There's surface level and deep level. Surface level is just age, race, gender. And then deep level is like attitudes, values, beliefs. And you want to have a diverse team because if you just have one of everything, if you have just a not diverse team, you won't get as many opinions and angles that you could, and but if it's too diverse, it could lead to conflict within the group. So you have to have a good level of that.
So I'm going to talk about advantages and disadvantages of team decision-making approaches. The first one is brainstorming alone. Advantages of this would just be coming up with new creative ideas, not being influenced by your group members on like certain ideas you come up with. And then like after you're done brainstorming alone, just like bringing your ideas to the group and building on those ideas together. And then the disadvantage for that would be like not being able to come up with ideas alone, and like not having people tell you if like your ideas are like good or not, since you don't have a group to talk to you about that. And then the next one would be slowing down the creative process. An advantage to this would be it's a faster approach to implement the solution you want to implement. It also helps people who have a need for closure, as if it teaches them that everyone needs to wait until ideas are generated and built upon. And then the disadvantage would be just like the short brainstorming process and not enough ideas being able to get generated. Then you can draw out your ideas. So the advantages of this would be describing the ideas that you can't explain in words. A disadvantage would be everyone can't draw out their ideas. And then an example of it would be Google, because their employees use pictures during their brainstorming sessions, believing that pictures are usually louder than words and harder to misinterpret.
All right, everyone. That's all we got. So if you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section or put them on our review of how well we did, and hopefully we'll see them. Thank you.